I'm Howie Lim. This is Money Hacks by the Business Times.
Especially in today's world on social media, they sell this Lambo dream that you're parked in front of all of your portfolios. You just are getting mailbox money. And yes, you can get there, but realistically, it does take a long time.
All right, future millionaires, listen up. Today's Money Hacks has some tips on how to make more money in today's challenging environment. Okay, shh. I hear you. Things are expensive, it's hard to save money, you can't give up your day job. We'll get to all of those things in a bit. Welcome to Money Hacks, a podcast series by the Business Times, where we explore useful financial tips to help you on your money managing and wealth growing journey. I'm Howie Lim. And if you have feedback or an idea for a podcast episode, do get in touch, btpodcasts@sph.com.sg. And helping us out today is WSJ bestselling author, business growth expert, and financial analyst Candy Valentino. Okay, she's American and may not know how things work in Singapore, but she's a successful entrepreneur. So let's at least hear what she has to say.
We live in a world where everyone is clickbait and headlines, and they're just trying to get attention as opposed to seek actual valuable information. And I feel like I'm on this hunt to really find what's real, what's studied, what's proven, what's research back. So when I speak of things, if it's not research back, I will share this is my opinion.
Hear that? Research backed, which means to me, Candy's done the heavy lifting for us. But as always, do your own research though. One person's bread and all that. Plus the current economy with high inflation means having one income source isn't really the safest thing. But don't panic is the point I'm making. Things still need to be thought through, okay?
So there's only a few ways that we can really increase our net worth. Really what we're doing is we're trying to increase our income or spend less. And I think it is extremely difficult in this type of economy to really spend less. Expenses are at an all-time high. Cost of living is at an all-time high. They have more month than money, as the saying goes. So we need to find a way to make more money. And there's certain ways that we can do that.
Ooh, all right, we're ready. Give it to us.
Obviously with our time. Everyone listening has developed some skill, some talent, some experience throughout their life. And even if you do have a day-to-day job that you are currently getting paid for your time, you can also leverage and get paid for that time outside of your job. So I always say number one is selling yourself as a service. Now that could be in the intellectual space where you're maybe a freelancer on Upwork, or it could actually be where you're selling services that you can perform. Maybe you really enjoy organizing your home or cleaning your house or lawn care, whatever it might be that you enjoy, you can probably sell that as a service on the side. Some of the most successful people I know, billionaires in business, all started with creating income on the side of their job. It's actually the safest route to start a business is to keep your day job and to develop something else on the side so that you can eventually possibly switch into that more full time. So that's the first, selling services, your time.
I love it. SaaS. I mean, I'm no software, but self as a service. Okay, not sure everyone's into that. And some of us have day jobs that may not allow it. What then?
Yeah. And maybe there's a way to repackage it, right? So let's say, for example, broadcast, maybe you can't do voiceovers, but are you able to consult with people that want to start their own podcasts? Or are you able to develop a course of ways to get your messaging out, right? So there may be different revenue verticals. There may be another revenue vertical, even when you're under a restriction, that you can still take that knowledge and repackage it so that you're not, violating any non-competes or type of contracts that you have with your job.
Revenue verticals. Got it. All right. So number one is self as a service. What's next?
So another way you can do that is to sell your spaces. So often we have things in our home. We have maybe a pool in our backyard that isn't used. You can leverage that on Peerspace or Swimply, these different apps. Sometimes people rent and they have an extra spot in their garage that they could rent and lease space to. So there's a lot of ways that you can maybe sell spaces that you have. Somebody even taking a roommate. Someone on my team actually just brought in a roommate just to try to mitigate some expenses, save more money so that they can invest more money. So there's a lot of ways that you can do that.
Selling our spaces. That's a little harder for us to do in space-strapped Singapore. And with 5 adults and a cat living in my apartment, can't really afford to rent out any space. Life's tough. Prices of everything are going up. So Candy's suggested SaaS and selling our spaces thus far. Sounds like a lot of work. I'll be the first to raise my hand and say that I'd really like to sit back and enjoy passive income. But there are many misconceptions about that which Candy's about to address.
To your question about passive income, of course, there's so many ways to do that. But I think people think of passive income as just this magical fairy that you do something once and you get paid over and over again with no effort. Even the biggest real estate investors that I know, there is still a part of that is not passive. So either you're managing it or you have a company managing it, but there are still issues that come up in real estate, whether it's residential or commercial or multifamily. The passiveness, you really have to have a really large portfolio to be fully removed and just collect mailbox money. Passive income could also be portfolio income. But again, you need to have the money to invest the money to get that passive income in the form of dividends or interest that you're collecting off. That's passive, but that takes some money to make.
Well, now that bubble's burst. Not to worry, if you haven't heard the tip that works for you, Candy Valentino has more in a moment.
If you've been a fan of the podcast Mark to Market, Wealth BT and Property BT, they are moving to a new listing, BT Correspondence. Look for episodes every Tuesday from October. All the insights and analysis and market trends, property, wealth, and soon mobility too. Powered by the Business Times journalism of Genevieve Kwa, Leslie Yee, Ben Paul, and Darren Wong. Because great reads should be heard. The BT Correspondence channel. Find BT Correspondence wherever you listen to podcasts.
And now, back to Money Hacks from the Business Times.
But I don't know that safe is the way that anyone should play. Because I think when you get married, that's not safe. When you have a kid, when you're maybe not fully ready, that's not quite safe. When you go to college and hope that you're going to get a job on the other side, it's not really safe. But we do all of these things because they're normalized.
Candy Valentino, WSJ bestselling author, business growth expert, and financial analyst, who's helping us with money-making tips and ideas today.
The only way to ever stop trading time for money is we have to stop focusing on short-term instant gratification and start playing the long game. And this is the boring stuff that nobody wants to talk about, but it's actually what works. Building wealth is a long-term game. And the quicker that we can do that and the longer that we can delay gratification, the more that we open ourselves up to saying yes to anything that we want to do later.
Okay. So what else you got, Candy? We can sell our services, our spaces, and...
Could be in the form of royalties or licensing. It could be in books. It could be a lot of things that you do once and then you're getting paid for over and over again. Like the books I wrote them. It was a massive amount of work that you definitely did active for, but then it goes passive because as they continue to sell over months and years down the road, you're continually collecting money on them. But it's not a lot. So there's a lot of ways that you can develop some digital products too, whether that's creating, your knowledge in some way, packaging it to sell. So that is selling something that you create once that you're trying to create over and over again. And of course, real estate, I'm a huge real estate investor. So that's always one of my primary focuses. But I like to always make sure that we share both sides because I think people, especially in today's world on social media, they sell this Lambo dream that you're parked in front of all of your portfolios. You just are getting mailbox money. And yes, you can get there. But realistically, it does take a long time. And any seasoned real estate investor would tell you that. Anyone trying to sell you a real estate course, of course, is going to tell you that you can do it overnight. But it is going to take capital. It is going to take a lot of analysis to really determine what properties that can be more passive, that don't have a lot of expense. So that is certainly one of them.
Real estate investing is a little beyond me and might be for many, to be honest.
And another is something that maybe everyone has is selling your stuff. There are so many Americans that pay for storage. And I'm glad I have storage facility companies. So I'm glad that people pay for storage. But there are a lot of people that are paying storage. They're taking their money, paying to store things that they don't even know what's in that storage shed. And they have a garage full of stuff. Maybe their kids are no longer young. So you can sell your stuff. Some of that stuff still holds value. And of course, the scam-filled Facebook Marketplace might be challenging to sell stuff, but you have OfferUp and community groups inside of your hometown, most likely, that you can sell some stuff and just get extra cash. And I know, again, multimillionaire and billionaires that still do this, where they will go and acquire something and flip it, whether it's a car or, all of these different modalities that they'll actually go buy and sell for more. So it's not necessarily more of your time. But I always say to people, you got to find something that you enjoy. Like, you are not going to stick with something that you hate. So if you don't want to work more, going and doing something on the side, you're probably not going to stick with it because you really don't want to be working. So you need to find a way that you can stick with, something that you at least enjoy doing for a short period of time.
All that sounds great, but oh man, it really does sound like a lot of effort's required. Who has the time or wherewithal these days?
So there's a lot of ways to do it. What I find is that people will listen to all of these ways that you can make more money, and they just don't implement any. We are in a world today that we are full of ideas, but we are lacking implementers. So people will hear an idea, but an idea isn't going to change your life. It's the execution and implementation of that idea that will. So my whole thing is just pick one of these. Just pick one and actually do it within the next 24 hours so that you can start to get a result. And then that result over time will stack, and those stacking of the wins will give you a bigger payoff down the road.
I guess some would feel that's easier said than done, especially the more risk-averse and, dare I say it, older.
Fortune favors the bold. Fortune favors those that'll go out and take risks. And every person, again, the most successful billionaires and founders and successful people in their own lives that I know either took their last $700 and went on in on a dream, or they did something so big, right? You probably think, oh my gosh, I could never do that. For me, I had so much leverage because I didn't have anything, that taking a big risk wasn't that big of a deal. But there's also a cap, because when you have everything to lose, people then sometimes are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to make this big decision because what if? And those what ifs are what keeps you stuck. So oftentimes we think oh yeah, that would be great, but what if I lost? But what if you win? What if it goes better than you planned? So often there were times that I was like, oh, this could really go sideways. And then I would always check myself with my mindset and say, but what if it goes better than I planned? And then I would start to stack that scenario of that reality in my mind to say, what if it does better than I thought? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And I think that the reason when people are truly risk adverse, it's because they haven't created a vision for their life that is so exciting and compelling that they want to go after, that they're not afraid of what somebody is going to say, or if they fail, or who Bob down the street is going to care about their life. When you can create something so compelling, so imaginative, that's so big and bold that it's going to change your life, your family's lives, impact your community, you will not care about what other people think.
What if we really just want to stick with the status quo?
Okay, you can do that. But you can also create a life that you want to wake up to every day, that inspires your kids and your family and people around you. And even if they think you're crazy, which I can tell you so many times in my life, everyone thought I was crazy for doing X, Y, or Z. And then when they're on the other side of it, they're like, wow, that was really inspiring. I can't believe that you did that, or I can't believe you pulled that off. Not because I'm special at all, not because I have some intellect or some IQ. It's just because when you're willing to go all in on something and you have that vision that is just so big that failure becomes not an option, there is something in yourself that rises up so boldly that it gives you the ability to accomplish far more than you ever thought possible. That's what I hope people feel. That's what I hope people experience at least once in their life. But you first need to develop the muscle of achievement, and then you realize that you're capable of anything.
Worth a shot. Thanks to Candy Valentino, a WSJ bestselling author, business growth expert, and financial analyst. And don't forget to send us an email if you have feedback or an episode idea, btpodcasts@sph.com.sg. I'm Howie Lim, and this has been Money Hacks from the Business Times.
This is a podcast by the Business Times. Find more BT podcasts at businesstimes.com.sg/podcasts. Or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is meant to provide general information only. SPH Media accepts no liability for loss arising from any reliance on the podcast or use of third parties' products and services. Please consult professional advisors for independent advice.